The latest on the pandemic. The U.S. daily cases are down 39% in the last month, but states like West Virginia, Alaska, and Montana are still seeing significant surges.
COVID-19 vaccines for children between the ages of 5 and 11 could be just weeks away at this point. The CDC's Independent Advisory Board is planning to meet in the beginning of November to discuss that issue.
News of the meeting comes as pediatric hospitals across the country warn about an increase in the number of children developing a rare multi-system inflammatory disease following a surge in pediatric coronavirus infections over the summer. ABC's Phil Lipoff is in New York City right now with the story. Phil, good morning.
Good morning, Gio. And this rare disease you're talking about, found in many kids with COVID, is certainly worrying for any parent. This pediatric surge we've been seeing coming just weeks before possible authorization of a vaccine for kids 5 to 11. This morning, the U.S. preparing for the potential rollout of COVID-19 vaccines for kids as early as November 3rd. Pfizer, the first drug company to request emergency authorization use of its vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. The Washington Post reporting the government is ready to send out up to 20 million Pfizer vaccines as soon as it's authorized for that age group. Also saying doses will be distributed based on a state's population of eligible children. Many parents apprehensive about vaccinating their kids.
With kids, it's kind of it's a little bit scarier than just an adult. Who knows how that's going to affect their growth going forward.
Others relieved.
She's like, when can I get the vaccine, Daddy? You know, because you have it. Why can't I get it yet?
Pfizer announcing the shots with smaller doses were safe and effective in children during trials. Experts say if the vaccine is authorized for kids, it could be a turning point in the fight against COVID.
If you continue to inoculate the population, and now we will be able to inoculate those that are 5 to 11, that will just essentially decrease the number of individuals that the virus can replicate and therefore spread.
As some kids are battling the virus, a number of pediatric hospitals across the country are warning more children are developing a rare condition of multi-system inflammatory syndrome 2 to 6 weeks after a COVID infection. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, 4-year-old Mason was hospitalized after his parents noticed he was struggling to breathe.
They did the test and it was confirmed he was positive.
Mason is home now from the hospital, but still needs to undergo breathing treatments every 4 hours.
I don't know if they're exposed to it, and if they're exposed to it, are they taking it to school and exposed to other people? Like, this is just kind of scary.
The FDA and CDC will meet a little later on this month to discuss booster shots for Johnson & Johnson and Moderna. Authorization of those shots could come as soon as October 22nd. Lindsay?
Phil, thanks so much. And for more on this now, we're joined by Dr. John Brownstein, Chief Innovation Officer at Boston's Children's Hospital. Always good to talk to you, Dr. Brownstein. Let's just start right off with parents. What do you tell them who feel like the timing of this authorization request seems too fast?
Yeah, good morning, Lindsay. I mean, you'd say that some parents actually feel like this is moving too slowly. I mean, the bottom line is the FDA is going to be incredibly thoughtful in its review of data. So far, what we've seen is that these vaccines are incredibly safe and effective for kids, similar to what we see in 12 and above with minimal side effects. But the FDA is just not going to rush this process. They're reviewing thousands of patients of data. They're going to be very deliberate in weighing risk and benefits. I fully expect authorization in November, but they're not going to be forced into making a decision until they're 100% comfortable that they're ready for kids.
Do you feel like, for the most part, pediatricians will be ready to recommend the vaccine for their patients if approved, or will they want to wait and get a better look at the data first?
I think most pediatricians will likely take the CDC recommendations to heart. This is what they always do. They follow CDC recommendations because they've spent the most amount of time with the data and are very careful with recommendations. But they may want to spend some time, and we all want to recognize that the risk calculation for kids is different. Ultimately, it's a conversation with pediatricians to have with parents, and so everyone is comfortable that these benefits far outweigh the risks, and vaccinating kids is really the key to ending the pandemic.
Obviously, we've seen a lot of vaccine hesitancy with adults. Do you think that the vaccine hesitancy will be worse when it comes to vaccinating children? And what's your advice to parents?
Yeah, I think that, what we've seen from the data is vaccine confidence does go down as you enter younger age groups. It makes sense. Parents are concerned about vaccinating their younger kids, but we have to remember these are the most studied vaccines ever produced, and we know that the side effects in older populations are going to be similar as in kids. And like we said, the entire pandemic, just follow the science. And while we know COVID is less severe in kids, we've still seen that incredible toll, as you've shown in that piece, in deaths, hospitalizations, long COVID. And the importance of a safe and effective vaccine is really the key to protecting our kids right now.
And there's also a lot of debate about whether or not we've actually turned the corner in this pandemic. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's very optimistic. We're seeing that decline in cases and hospitalizations, but it's not, the same across the country. There are many places with still intense transmission, and that is partly due to unvaccinated populations. That includes our kids, of course. And we hope these national numbers get better, but we still have to be vigilant. We have a concern about a winter surge, possibly a new variant. So we just have to be on guard for a few more months.
The CDC's Independent Advisory Board is scheduled to meet next week to discuss COVID-19 vaccine boosters for Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. What does that tell us?
We finally have a timeline for authorization for, Moderna and J&J, especially J&J patients who have been long waiting for a recommendation. And while the existing vaccines protect incredibly well, we know that immunity does wane. And so this additional boost can help, especially for groups like immunocompromised or the elderly. But we have to remember that this vaccine is still being driven by the unvaccinated population. So boosters are not a replacement for getting those tens of millions of people that still need to get the shot in order to really end this pandemic.
Dr. Brownstein, always appreciate your insight. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.